Hello, everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 471, The Train to Nowhere. Intermediate. The platform was cold and empty, lit by a single flickering lamp. Sarah, a nurse from Bristol, stood clutching her ticket, her breath visible in the chilly air. It was past midnight, and the small countryside station felt like the edge of the world. She was heading to a new job in a remote hospital, but the train she needed, the 12:15 to Northwood, hadn't arrived. Her phone showed no signal, and the station's clock was stuck at 11:59. A low rumble broke the silence. Headlights pierced the darkness, and a train rolled in, its carriages old and rusted, nothing like the modern ones Sarah knew. The sign on the side read Northwood, but something felt wrong. The windows were dark and no one else was boarding. Still, she couldn't stay here all night. She stepped aboard, the door hissing shut behind her. Inside, the carriage smelled of damp wood and old leather. The seats were worn, and a faint hum vibrated through the floor. Sarah sat near the window, but all she saw was her reflection in the black glass. The train lurched forward, faster than she expected. No conductor came to check her ticket. No other passengers appeared. She was alone, or so she thought. A faint whisper echoed from the next carriage. Sarah froze, her heart thudding. It sounded like voices, soft and overlapping, but she couldn't make out the words. She told herself it was the wind or the train's creaks, but the whispers grew louder, urgent. Curiosity pulled her forward. She stood, gripping her bag, and moved to the door connecting the carriages. The next carriage was darker, the lights dim and flickering. Old newspapers littered the floor, their headlines faded but unsettling. Train vanishes in storm. Passengers never found. Sarah's stomach twisted. She noticed a photograph in one paper, a train identical to this one, dated 1953. Her hands shook as she read. The 12:15 to Northwood disappeared with all aboard. The whispers stopped. Silence pressed against her ears. Then a cold hand brushed her shoulder. Sarah spun around, but no one was there. Her breath quickened. She backed away, her eyes scanning the shadows. At the far end of the carriage, a figure sat, hunched and still, wearing a tattered coat. She hadn't seen them before. "Hello?" Sarah called, her voice trembling. The figure didn't move. She stepped closer, her boots loud against the floor. The air grew colder, heavier. When she was close enough, the figure's head snapped up. Its face was pale, almost translucent, with hollow eyes that locked onto hers. Sarah screamed, stumbling back. The train jolted violently, throwing her to the floor. The lights went out, plunging the carriage into darkness. Sarah scrambled to her feet, her hands fumbling for her phone's torch. The beam shook as she swung it around. The figure was gone, but the whispers returned, louder, circling her. "Stay," they hissed. "You belong here." Sarah ran, pushing through doors to the next carriage, then the next. Each one was older, more decayed, as if time itself was unravelling. She saw more figures now, shadowy shapes in the seats, their eyes following her. The train's speed increased, the windows rattling. She reached the front carriage, but there was no driver's cabin, just a blank wall. Desperate, Sarah pounded on the windows, but they wouldn't break. Her phone buzzed, suddenly alive, displaying a single message: "No escape." She dropped it, her mind racing. Then she remembered the emergency brake. Every train has one. She searched frantically, her hands brushing cobwebs and rust, until she found a red lever near the door. She pulled with all her strength. The train screeched, metal grinding against metal. Sparks flew outside and the carriage tilted. Sarah held on as the world spun. When the train finally stopped, silence fell. She kicked the door open and leapt out, landing on wet grass. The train stood still, its lights dead, surrounded by endless fields under a starry sky. Sarah ran, not looking back, until she reached the road. A lorry driver found her at dawn, shivering and incoherent. When she tried to explain, he shook his head. "No trains run through here," he said. "Not since the 1953 disaster." Sarah never took a train again, but sometimes at night she heard whispers calling her back to the 12:15. Vocabulary notes. Flickering, meaning adjective, shining or burning with an unsteady or wavering light, turning on and off quickly. Context in the story. The word describes the unstable light at the train station and inside the train, creating a spooky and uncertain atmosphere. Example: the platform was cold and empty, lit by a single flickering lamp. New example sentence: the flickering candle made the room feel eerie during the power outage. Similar words: twinkling, shining with a soft intermittent light, often positive, e.g. stars. Example: the stars were twinkling in the clear night sky. Glimmering, giving off a faint or wavering light. Example: the lake was glimmering under the moonlight. Flashing, shining suddenly and briefly. Example: the lighthouse was flashing to guide the ships. Note for learners: flickering often suggests something unstable or unreliable, like a light about to go out, and is common in descriptions of creepy settings. Lurched, meaning verb. Move suddenly and unsteadily, often forward or to one side, a jerky or abrupt movement. Context in the story. The word describes the train's sudden, rough movement, adding to the sense of danger and instability. Example: the train lurched forward, faster than she expected. New example sentence: the bus lurched to a stop, making everyone grab their seats. Similar words: jerked, moved with a sudden, sharp motion. Example: the car jerked when the driver hit the brakes. Staggered, moved unsteadily, often due to weakness or shock. Example: he staggered after standing up too quickly. Swayed, moved or swung from side to side. Example: the boat swayed in the rough waves. Note for learners: lurched is often used for vehicles or people moving in a clumsy, uncontrolled way, and it can suggest surprise or discomfort. Tattered, meaning adjective, torn, ragged or worn out, especially in reference to clothing or fabric. Context in the story. The word describes the figure's coat, suggesting poverty, neglect, or something old and ghostly. Example: at the far end of the carriage, a figure sat, hunched and still, wearing a tattered coat. New example sentence: the old book had tattered pages that crumbled when touched. Similar words: ragged, worn out or torn, often unevenly. Example: the beggar wore ragged shoes with holes. Shabby, worn and faded, often due to overuse. Example: the shabby curtains needed replacing. Frayed, worn at the edges with threads coming loose. Example: her frayed jeans looked stylish but old. Note for learners: tattered is stronger than worn and often implies something is in very poor condition, adding a sense of decay or eeriness in stories. Translucent, meaning adjective, allowing light to pass through but not fully transparent, slightly see-through. Context in the story. The word describes the figure's pale, ghostly face, enhancing the supernatural and terrifying mood. Example: its face was pale, almost translucent, with hollow eyes that looked onto hers. New example sentence: the translucent wings of the dragonfly shimmered in the sunlight. Similar words: transparent, completely see-through. Example, the transparent glass showed everything inside. Sheer, very thin and almost see-through, often for fabrics. Example, she wore a sheer scarf that floated in the breeze. Opaque, not letting light through at all. Example, the opaque curtains blocked all sunlight. Note for learners, translucent is between transparent, fully clear, and opaque, fully blocking light. It's often used for delicate or ghostly descriptions. Hiss, meaning, verb, to make a sharp S-like sound, like air escaping or a snake, can also describe whispered or angry speech. Context in the story, the word is used for the ghostly whispers, making them sound threatening and snake-like. Example, stay, they hissed, you belong here. New example sentence, the kettle hissed as steam poured out. Similar words, whispered, spoke very softly, often secretly. Example, she whispered a secret to her friend. Sizzled, made a hissing sound, often from heat. Example, the bacon sizzled in the pan. Murmured, spoke softly and indistinctly, often calmly. Example, he murmured an apology under his breath. Note for learners, hiss can describe sounds like steam or snakes, or speech with a sharp, angry or creepy tone, as in the story. Cobwebs, meaning, noun. Spider webs, especially old and dusty ones, often found in neglected places. Context in the story, the word adds to the sense of decay and abandonment in the train, suggesting it hasn't been cleaned or used in a long time. Example, she searched frantically, her hands brushing cobwebs and rust, until she found a red lever near the door. New example sentence, the attic was full of cobwebs, making it feel creepy and untouched. Similar words, spider webs, the webs made by spiders, more general terms. Example, spider webs sparkled with dew in the garden. Dust, fine particles that settle on surfaces, often in neglected places. Example, the old piano was covered in dust. Debris, scattered pieces of rubbish or remains. Example, the abandoned house was full of debris and cobwebs. Note for learners, cobwebs is often used in stories to describe old, creepy places. It can also be used metaphorically, e.g., clearing the cobwebs from my mind, refreshing one's thoughts. Story written by Grok 3 AI. Image created by Grok 3 AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.